Always talk it. Talk it was saying it's a copycat league, and everyone's, I expect to see more dumping and chasing. It'd be an interesting time to zag because I don't think the league is going to go back to the 1990s and just dump, pump, hit. Like
I'd love that.
But you don't have players like that anymore. They're too hard to find.
Well, that's it. And you have Florida. That's
you would like it, but go find one.
So you're going to get the Leafs is what you're going to get. Teams that are not naturally built to do it, trying to do it. And I don't know that that's the answer either. Like, I don't think the solution is to say everyone play like Florida unless you have meanies. You need a couple guys who have some malice in their heart.
Tournament, stop feeding them. Feed them nails. Do something. But, it's the only
really
way.
Nice?
It's the only way.
Really nice.
Eventually, you're going to have to fight fire with fire. You are.
I don't know. I don't think you can outflame them. I think you're just going to play their game.
I think
you're going to light yourself on fire, trying to light them on fire.
Hey, do your job better. Find more guys.
Well, if that's it, I don't believe that. I don't believe that the next 3 Stanley Cup champions after this year are going to be dump and chase mean heavy teams. I don't think that's the case.
That's Florida.
Yes. Florida's the dumpiest team.
No. I don't care what the analytics say.
Yeah.
That team will beat you any which way.
That team will. But they're not going to do this forever. They're not just going to win
they're
cups.
Going to get tired. They'll get tired.
Right. And so, you look at the way the Penguins won cups in 16, 17, or you look at ways the Avalanche weren't this. Mm-hmm. They were a high possession, high, shot attempt team. I think that teams are going to get tunnel visioned. We need to be the Panthers, and very few rosters are capable of carrying that many players who can both play and hit.
To be on the cusp of going to 3 straight Stanley Cup finals, which they are, you have to be a perfect mix.
You'll be able to play every game.
Perfect mix of players. And does it suck that they were able to put $10 million on LTIR and add Seth Jones and Brad Marchand to the roster?
That's maybe undersold in all this right now.
No, and they don't have to pay state taxes and they get to play all their players less than $3 million less. Yeah, it's all a factor.
Don't ask us. Let's ask our Friday guest, Doug MacLean, former NHL president, GM, and coach. It was this time last week.
Chilling.
He said this.
You know what? I was saying they were finally had their bottom 6 was better. They were tougher. They play a better game. Their blue line was better. Their goaltending's the best that it's been forever. And then I watched the last 2 games and I said, how wrong could I be? They were horrible the last 2 games. And I'm sorry. I don't know. I don't know. Look, if this ends tonight, it's going to get really ugly as to how to rebuild this team.
Doug MacLean on the Toronto Maple Leafs getting really ugly after Game 7. Did I play that the way you instructed me to exactly?
Well, I'm glad you're keeping. I'm glad you're keeping track of things I say. Because I've said a lot of things this year that made a lot of sense that got lost in the confusion and the mess of the segment. But I want to disagree with Bourne there for 1 minute. A lot of those players, when they went to the Panthers, were not those type of players. Bennett was a skilled guy in Calgary. That's why they got rid of him.
He fought a little bit.
He fought a little bit, but he wasn't anywhere
You're
close
right.
to the same player.
Neither was Reinhart.
Lundell, Luskin, all these guys, when they became Panthers, all of a sudden there's the Kachuks and company. There's a
culture developed.
There's a culture there that's unbelievable. And you know what? I'm really disappointed because the Leafs lost an amazing opportunity here. I had them as the second best team in the East this year, the Leafs. Not totally. I had on my chart, the way I do the evaluations, a 7 for a franchise player, a 6 and a 5, all the way down to a 1. I had the Panthers at 93.5 as their total numbers. And that's with Bobrovsky as a 7. I had Toronto's goaltending as a 6, and I had the Leafs at 89.5. I had Florida better up front, and that's hard to believe. I had them 57.5 versus a 56 for the Leafs. 29 for the blue line versus 27-5 for Toronto's blue line, and a 7 for their goaltending and a 6 for Toronto. So it was a close series. But it wasn't close. If goalie Bob didn't stink it out the first 2 games, it might have been over a lot earlier. So goalie Bob was horrible, and they're up 2-0, and the Leafs played well. They played well, but goalie Bob helped them. And then they lost 4 out of 5. Okay? But here's what happened to the Leafs, in my opinion. Trade deadline, every team in the East got dominated by the Florida Panthers at the trade deadline. There's team construction happens in a number of ways. Draft number 1, waivers, trades, and free agency. And on the trade deadline, all the teams in the East got schooled. They add Jones to their lineup, and they also add, obviously the big guy Marchand up front for the same price, essentially, that the Leafs added Lawton and Carlo. Same price, essentially. That's getting schooled at trade deadline. Okay.
I know, but there's also various factors.
There's money factors. Okay, so that's where I want to go.
And Marchand wanted to go south. He didn't want to go to Toronto.
Well, there's other guys besides Marchand to trade for.
All right.
Okay, but listen, it comes back to the core 4 and the money that was allocated to them and how hard it's been to build a team. Look at Toronto's blue line, or Florida's blue line. Look how that blue line is constructed. From Forsling on down to their number 6 guy. A really solid, big, physical, playoff-ready blue line. Toronto's blue line was better, not even close to Florida's. Why do you think Toronto's core 4 struggled in the series? A lot to do with the physicality of the Florida blue line and the way they play in their own end and the physicality of their forwards. So I just think I look at Toronto now. They've got a big management change there. I'll tell you one thing they better really do is they better figure out their pro scouting really fast.
Do tell.
Take a dozen of those analytics guys and maybe drop them down to 4 and move the other 8 into scouting, because they've got to figure out their pro scouting really quick. Because teams are, with the salary cap, it becomes even more important to make sure you're on top of that business. Florida, Rick Dudley, advisor, pro scout. Les Jackson, who helped build Dallas Stars, pro scout. Paul Fenton, who was a real instrumental in Nashville, pro scout and a former GM. That's their below their GM staff. And all of a sudden now we've got Pelly and Tree Living and Berube. Who I don't know anybody else in the pro scouting department. I don't know. I looked them up today. I don't know a name there. I don't know them.
Brendan Shanahan never hired those type of guys that you're talking about.
Yeah, okay, so Brendan's gone now. So this is an opportunity. And look, Brad's a solid guy, and Brad's done a reasonably good job.